there's a couple things that I mispronounced, specifically zebra. We had
It's
a
a
funny
zebra, not a
conversation.
zebra.
Welcome to Fat Chat. I'm Annette, the founder of Fat Girls Traveling. Super excited to be chatting with Gilbert today of Zuri Expeditions. We're talking everything Tanzania, and we're demystifying some of the preconceptions about traveling to Africa. Gilbert and I met in 2022 during a press trip that I took with my mom. It was our first time traveling to Africa, and Gilbert made sure it was the experience of a lifetime. We went on safari, which is called a game drive. We tried new foods, got up close and personal with some of the incredible wildlife, and learned so much about Black history and myself. Gilbert has since launched his own tour company, Zuri Expeditions, and is one of very few Black owned safari companies in Tanzania. In honor of Black History Month, in our new collaboration, we're unpacking the Plus Size Tanzania Tour, sharing some highlights of the tour and some of the cool things I learned from my time in Tanzania. Stay until the end to hear the history of the do-rag. Gilbert, how are you? And what was the last
I'm
animal that you saw?
I'm good, thank you, Annette. Thank you for the conversation that we're having. The last animal I saw during my last trip was a giraffe.
I love giraffes. They're so cute and tall.
It's my favorite animal. That is why when you look at my company logo, it is a logo of a giraffe.
How are you? How's everything? How's business? Are your tours busy right now or it's February now. So is it like busy season or slow season?
My trips are going on. The bookings are coming in, and I have a few trips scheduled for February in Tanzania because this is the migration season, and that is the time when animals are calving and having the young ones, and many people want to see them in Tanzania.
So exciting. I went during the migration, but I think it was in November. So I don't know that like people the animals were birthing yet.
Yes, if you come in the month of November, December, January, February, and March, I think almost 5 months, there's an opportunity of you seeing wildebeest migration together with the zebras, the antelopes, the gazelles. So it's a migration of, different species of animals. And November was the perfect time for you to visit. And I think I'll also recommend that in the near future, you can do any time between November and March. That is the best time to see them, the calving and the young ones, before they begin the journey up north.
That is a great tip. Thank you so much. And how's everything with Zuri Expeditions? Can you tell us a little bit about your brand and how you started?
Zuri Expeditions is a tour company based in East Africa. Our main office is in Nairobi, Kenya, but we do run trips within East Africa. I started Zuri Expeditions in the year 2022, but officially registered in the year 2023. And initially, before starting the company, I worked as a tour leader for different companies, including big brands, which helped me, to shape, get my skills, shape and work on my knowledge and expertise. And for many years, more than 9 years, working as a tour leader, and that is how I came to, decide to start my own tour company. And it has been going on well. And I'm very happy that people are subscribing to my trips. And I'm running trips, every month here and there. We have 2 or 3 trips. And the future is bright.
Very true. The future is bright. And first of all, I just want to say I'm so proud of you and so excited about everything that you're doing with Zuri Expeditions and excited to see the growth of your brand and excited for us to collaborate on our Plus Size Tanzania tour. But before
Thank
we
you
get
so much.
into, of course, before we get into the meat of stuff, one of the things that you were kind of clowning me on a little bit as an American is like, my pronunciation of things. And I don't even know if I'm saying Tanzania correctly, but I I know there's a couple things that I like mispronounce, specifically zebra. We
It's
had
a
a funny
zebra.
we had
It's
a
a
funny
zebra, not a
conversation.
zebra.
Yes, please tell me all the things that I'm mispronouncing and tell us how to pronounce them correctly before we go any
uh,
further.
yeah. on my trips, I do meet different people from different nationalities, and we have a different way of pronouncing, words. And like the way you've said as an American, I always find, when we see an animal and say, Gilbert, is that a zebra? And then I say, no, it's not a zebra, it's a zebra. I say, no, it's a zebra. And then we start, push and pull. And then I realized that it actually depends on where you come from. For us, we pronounce as a zebra because for us, the last alphabet, the letter, the last one is Z. So we don't say Z. So we say Z. So that's why we call a zebra and not a zebra. And another one is aluminium and aluminum. Sometimes we have a lot of fight on, a trip. Yeah, it is aluminium for us. And most people, Americans say aluminum. I don't know where they dropped the letter I. So, yes.
I'm muted, but I'm over here cackling. You're like, I don't know where they dropped the letter I.
Yes,
And
and Tanzania, and you've mentioned about Tanzania. So most people and foreigners pronounce is I'm going on a trip to Tanzania. I think that's how you pronounce. But for us, we pronounce Tanzania. So if I want to tell, my friend I'm going to Tanzania in Swahili, I say naenda Tanzania or Tanzania, depending on how we find it easy. But usually Tanzania is way easier for us, Tanzania and not Tanzania. But because we work in the travel industry and we meet different people, we just make it Tanzania so that it becomes easier for everyone.
thank you so much for breaking that down. It's something that I've
Yo,
actually shared with other people, the Tanzania, because I
yes.
mispronounce it, but also I argue with my British friends all the time about the aluminum versus the aluminium. I don't even know, like, I can't aluminium,
Aluminium. So don't drop the
aluminium.
I. Yes.
Yeah, and then Z, you're right. Like in the UK and in other countries, they say Z for Z, and in the US, we're the only country that says Z for Z.
Yes.
So we're the only country that basically mispronounces words with the letter Z or Z in them. And so it's very interesting and funny when you're one of few American people arguing, and then the people, oh, one of your best comeback was you don't even have zebras in America. How are you gonna
Yes.
say you were like, how
Yes.
are you don't know how to pronounce them because you don't have zebras in your country? I was like,
That's
oh,
true, and that's
you told
funny.
me. Like boom, roasted. Like you definitely got me on that one. So I was like, it's zebra.
Yeah.
My bad.
Okay. So let's agree, Annette, it's a zebra
Yes.
and not a zebra.
Everyone, yeah, everyone watching this going forward, we're going to say zebra, Tanzania, and aluminium. That one's going to be hard for me though. Aluminium is,
Okay.
oof. We met in Tanzania, but I would love to
Yes.
know like which other countries do you travel to with Zuri Expeditions? Like if someone traveled with you, where else would they be able to go?
We do have we run trips or do trips in more than 4 countries, actually 5 countries. So I do run trips in the neighboring country, Uganda. Those who want to see the gorilla and the chimpanzee, so gorilla trekking and chimpanzee trekking, and there are beautiful parks in Uganda. We also have trips in Tanzania, which we do a lot of trips in Tanzania. And when we mention Tanzania, we include the island of Zanzibar. It's a beautiful beach. And for those who would like to do a trip, not only on the mainland for the wildlife, they can also do the relaxing uh, part, which is Zanzibar, which has beautiful beaches. And I run trips in Ethiopia for those who would like to learn more about the history and the culture, being the only country that was not colonized in Africa. So they still have their, retain their culture for so many years. And yeah, and Kenya and Rwanda. So basically, I do trips in Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Ethiopia. Yeah.
Amazing. That's so incredible. I definitely need to because I'm coming this year for Tanzania and Zanzibar. But I do want to go to Ethiopia. I have some friends that are from Ethiopia and I've always wanted to travel there. So maybe next year, Ethiopia.
It's a beautiful country. You're much welcome. And I'm looking forward to see you in Tanzania this year.
Yes, I'm so excited. I'm super excited. I'm doing my 40th birthday celebration with you this year, and we'll talk a little bit
Mm.
about that later. But
Yes.
another thing that you reminded me of during our pre-interview chat was just how many amazing countries there are in Africa. I know a lot of Americans don't comprehend that Africa is a continent with lots of different countries. And so, is there anything that you want to say on that topic?
Yeah, that's true because sometimes I get a request. I receive an email, and uh, one of the clients asked me, I think, was last year, that I would like to come to Africa and I would like to see giraffes, lions. And I responded to that email, which country specifically would you like to go in? The client said, Africa. I just want to see the whole of Africa. And I said, Africa has more than 54 countries. For you to travel to all the countries, you need almost more than 5 months. And say, no, holy shit, I only have 5 days. And I said, we have different countries they are independent, they have their own president, they have their own constitution. And that is when I was able to enlighten this client. And then, so Kenya is a different country, Tanzania is a different. I say, yes. And until they came to Tanzania, they realized the difference between all the countries, that you needed to produce your passport in every country that you go when transiting. And yeah, so I would like to tell people that yes, Africa is a continent made up of different countries with different rules, different cultures. So every choose for the wildlife, it could be Kenya, it could be Tanzania or Uganda. Can you hear me?
Yep, I
Oh,
did hear
yes.
you. The internet went a little bit, but it came back. But that is really good to know, but also kind of funny because it is very realistic that people think that Africa is one country and it's lots of countries, it's a whole continent. And so it's kind of funny that your client was like, "Oh, I want to see all of Africa." You're like, "Huh?" But
Yes.
that's definitely a part of this whole conversation is like demystifying and just educating people to know that like it's lots of countries. Try to see them
Yes.
all. But like you said, it'll take a lot of time. It's not just like a short time thing, you know?
Yeah,
And then
that's true. Because yeah,
and
that's
you
true.
also
Because
need visas, right?
yes, indeed, visa is required.
So I know my visa for Tanzania, I think it was like a 4-year visa. Or I can come back
Mhm.
4 times. I can visit 4 times for the one visa, and then it's $100 for the visa. So
Yes.
different countries have different visas at different fees, and so that's also something that people need to factor in when traveling the continent of
Yes.
Africa.
Yes.
But it's also one
And
of the excuses that I'm using to come back to Tanzania this year because I'm like, yo, my visa, I got 3 more visits on this visa. Got to use them up, you know?
yes, and you could actually use it. How many times are they allowing you to use it?
4 times.
So you can come to Tanzania 4 times. Now the fifth time, I think. Looking forward to seeing you. Just a few months to go. I think 10 months
Yes.
to go. No, actually 8. It's 8. It's getting shorter and shorter every day.
I know. I'm excited. But okay, so before my birthday trip, we are going to be collaborating on the Plus Size Tanzania Tour. I reached out to you because I had such a great time on the trip, the press trip that I did with you. And I wanted to curate something specifically for plus size travelers that gave them the experience of going on safari and, you know, visiting these camps that are inside of these beautiful national parks, but also having time to relax, having a little bit of luxury at some of the nicer hotels, spending a little time by the pool, enjoying some
Mhm.
delicious, unique foods. I remember, wasn't there like a green banana or like a red banana or something that you gave us to try?
Yes, in Tanzania, yes.
Yeah, there were lots
So
of just,
allow me to use Tanzania for now because when I speak in English, it comes automatically as Tanzania. So,
I get
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Sorry, the bananas. Yes, I give shout out the bananas. Which the town was Mto wa Mbu, where we got the red bananas, meaning the river of mosquitoes. You remember?
Yeah.
Yes.
And they tasted like regular bananas though, but they were just like cuter. They were just like reddish pinkish.
Yeah, some people might not be able to differentiate, but I think when I taste, I find the taste almost it just almost similar as the regular or the yellow banana, but the texture when you're chewing it, you feel that is not the same as the other one.
It's more like a plantain, like the texture is a little
Plantain,
thicker.
it like sticky. Yes, now you're right.
Hmm.
Yes, yes,
Yeah. The flavor is like a banana, but the texture is giving a little more plantain for me.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
That is right.
Just
True.
random, but
You have not
obviously,
forgotten.
no, I have a good memory. But also, I just want, our audience to feel like they're there with us and clearly give them some motivation to come on our Plus Size Tanzania tour or to come on tour with Zuri Expeditions. There's lots of opportunity to travel. Another reason why I'm super excited for our collaboration is because I learned that out of all the safari companies in Africa, only 15% of African safari companies are owned by Black Africans. And I was surprised. But then I remembered when I was on the trip with you, I didn't really see that many Black people. Like the only Black people that I saw were working. I didn't see any other Black people like on tour. And I think my mom and I and Vivian were the only Black people that I saw like on all of the tours when I was there. But I would love to know
Um,
like your perspective. Do you get a lot of Black travelers, Black European travelers, Black American travelers, Black travelers from other countries?
mhm. That's true. Uh, During the trip, yes, I think three people were were black travelers, and the reason to why we have very few black people traveling to all these beautiful countries is because one is because of historical, is more of a trauma because there was, there came the colonization. It started with the slave trade and then came transition to colonization. And when many Africans were being faced by, affected by discriminatory laws, many of them could not understand or get to know the value of traveling or the good things that come with traveling. So a good example is there were very stringent and difficult discriminatory law that affected the black people, where there were restaurants for the blacks and restaurants for the whites, and all the best things were not found in the sides of the black people. So you want to go to beautiful white sandy beaches where you could swim in the blue waters, and it was all meant for the white. So this discouraged many Africans from traveling because of the discrimination that came with it. And even after many countries gaining independence, it still lasted for another 30 or 40 years for people to adjust because they never felt like they were welcomed there. So you want to go to a restaurant, but you feel like the price is so exorbitant and it's too high for you to afford. So I think I would blame it on, the colonial past and people are still adjusting to it. And I would still also blame it on inflation because being, destination that needs to be, paid expensively, most families prefer to adjust and pay for school fees, for medication, or whichever expense that come on their way, and then they decide, let's not travel. We leave it that way. So I think that is the main reason as to why people don't travel. It could be either the cost is too high and only foreigners can afford because the economy in their country is good, They don't travel also because of the reason I shared before, previous trauma due to colonization. And then lastly, is because of unemployment, because when there's no employment, which is very high in many African countries, then many people cannot afford to. But the good news is that we have so many companies now. There are companies in the US, companies in the UK also, who are targeting the Black travelers, at least to visit African countries to reconnect, with their ancestral land, their motherland. And we have huge numbers. Today, if you go to Tanzania, in every trip you do, you will see more and more Black people joining these trips, and they're coming in huge numbers.
That is very inspiring and encouraging because I definitely want to see more Black people traveling to Africa. I want to travel to Africa more. And I think that us, collaborating on this Plus Size Tanzania tour is one way that that will happen. Another thing I want to do in this conversation is
Mhm.
demystify some of the misconceptions. And I recently, and I was griping to you about this, but I recently saw this video, and the caption says African safari. But Gilbert, why are they driving around in a golf cart, okay, open and exposed, and then two lions jump into the golf cart and people start petting the lions? And one of my clients sent this to me because she was interested in the Tanzania tour, but she was like, "Is this how your tour is?" And I said, "Babe, that's not even, is that even in Africa? Like, that's not an African safari. That's some zoo or some park or something where these animals have been trained by humans, humanized, like accustomed to touching humans." I did not have any type of experience near to that. And my company, Fat Girls Traveling, we do not do any type of like animal tourism. And so I wouldn't do any trips where we would be able to touch tigers or touch lions or anything like that. But do you get these types of questions from your clients? And like, how does that make you feel to see videos that are clearly not African safari being framed as such, and people get this expectation that they're going to be able to touch and feel the animals when they're on safari?
Um, I'm really surprised that someone saw a golf cart, in the middle of wildlife park. I've never heard of something like that. In fact, I'm surprised when you mentioned that. In Serengeti or Tarangire, just mention any park in Africa. We do not have a golf, even pitch or field in the park. We do not organize a wildlife safari where people can get out and touch and pet the animals. And I'm very happy that FGT travels and tours also is moving towards that side of not allowing people to pet animals. But the truth is that it does not exist, and no one can pet an animal in the park. These animals are in their natural habitat, and we always say, let nature control itself. So that video that you saw, I don't think it was Africa, because nowadays people do everything for social media. They record a video just to get more likes on maybe various social media accounts. Or no, I don't think that was Africa, and I don't think you can have animals to pet in the wild. All the trips that we do, people can see animals in their natural habitat, and living freely, moving freely, hunting freely. We don't, and we don't feed the animals; they hunt for themselves. Yes.
That reminds me of when we were on our trip and we saw that mother and daughter, those lions, and they were pulling that like deer. Do you remember that?
Mhm.
I'm sure you've been on
Yes,
so
yes.
many tours, but we were like, what? Oh my gosh. It was a huge, huge, I don't know if it was a deer or antelope,
It
but
was an
these,
impala. I remember.
okay, yeah, and it was like these female lions that were smaller, just like dragging it, and we could tell which one was the daughter because she didn't want any parts of the hard work, and the mom is over here dragging the thing. It was definitely giving Circle of Life vibes. It was very Lion King, okay? Like,
Yes.
and that is one of the biggest like joys for me being in Tanzania is like feeling like I'm in the circle of life, you know? And
Yes.
I actually know some Swahili.
Aha, let's go.
Yes, I actually, thanks to you and the Lion King, I actually learned that I know some Swahili.
Let's go. One,
Because
just give
you
one.
told me that some of the animals, like we were just talking about animals, some of the animal names that they used in the Lion King are actually the names in Swahili. So like Pumbaa
Yes.
was one of them, I believe, and Nala was one of them. Can you explain what they mean in Swahili and a little bit more on that?
Yeah, that's true. When you look at the Lion King film or the movie, this is a film that was, acted, casted, and there are several characters that are in there. We have Simba, Nala, Pumbaa, we have Timon, Rafiki, and so many characters are in there. And when people watch the Lion King film, they see it brings them memories or the image of Africa. And Simba is just a direct translation of a lion. Lion, lion in English, but Swahili, Simba. That is a direct translation. And then we have Nala. When you look at that word Nala, it has no meaning in Swahili. However, the film was acted based on different characters from different countries across the world. A good example is the character Timon. Timon is the meerkat, but we do not have meerkats in Tanzania. We do not have them in Kenya or Uganda. It's only found in southern part of Africa. So this was filmed with different characters picked from different parts of the world. So Nala could mean something different in another tribe, but means nothing in Swahili. The water, we call it Pumba, as per the Lion King film. But actually, the real name of Warthog in Swahili is Ngiri. So why did the Lion King choose to use the name Pumbaa and not the actual word Ngiri? Because Pumbaa is an abbreviated word, it's a shortened word. Because for the young kids, when you mention like Timon, Nala, they are short names, very easy to remember. But for the Pumbaa, the full name is Pumbavu. Pumbavu in Swahili means stupid, and actually is one of the stupid animals that we have in the wild. Why? Because it is the only animal that can be chased by a lion for about 60 or 70 meters. Then they stop and forget it was being chased by a lion, then turn back and start running towards the lion. And that's why people say it forgets easily. So in Swahili, pumbavu means stupid. So for the Lion King film, instead of saying Pumbavu, which is very long, they removed the last words avu and remained with Pumba. Pumb, Havu. So Pumba means stupid. And that is the character. Even when you come to Serengeti, come to Tanzania, and you see the Pumba, whenever they see the vehicle or see even another animal like a lion, they will run for short distance very fast, but stop, forget, and start walking towards the lion, and they get eaten easily. So that is how the name came to exist.
That's so funny. And I remember you telling that story. I'm so happy you shared it with our
Yes,
audience. And yeah, so we all know a little Swahili. If you've seen The Lion King or Mufasa, you know a little
yes,
Swahili. And so, does
yes,
Akuna Matata mean anything though? Does Akuna Matata means no worries, or what? Is
yes.
my whole
You're
life a
right.
lie? Is my life a
You still
lie right
remember
now,
that.
Gilbert?
You're right. Akuna Matata means no worries. Yeah, it's
Fantastic.
like if I step on your feet, or and then I tell you, oh sorry, and you tell me like, oh no worries. In Swahili we say no, Akuna Matata. Just means no worries.
And that was such a great lesson on just learning a little bit of Swahili, having fun while you're traveling, and remembering the nostalgia of childhood. Because for me, Lion King was such a significant part of my childhood. Something else
Mhm.
that is super important for me is to deliver some luxury to my clients, which is why
Mhm.
we've mixed things up a little bit with staying in camps and then staying in these beautiful luxury hotels. Can you share a little bit about the camps? Because I feel like some people might be a little nervous about that. I actually ended up loving it because it gave me like glamping vibes, and it was definitely an opportunity to hear the animals in the wild at night. But there are some rules around that where, like, you can't leave the tent after a certain time. And if you need something, you have to blow a whistle. Can you explain a little bit about that to the audience?
Yeah, that's true. I think from the previous trip, we did not use a block house because in Serengeti, for conservation reasons, they tend to minimize and uh, use of block buildings. And the reason is because most of our guests, they come from different parts of the world, the US, UK, mention them. And most people want to feel the difference between being in the wild and being back at, being back in their respective countries. So most camps that we use in Serengeti, Tarangire, and any other park in Tanzania, most of them, I would say 99% of them are made of canvas. These are luxury tented camp. That is the name we use, luxury tented camp. For this tent, there's always the main house where or restaurant where you'll be having your food. It's the reception area, and then the rooms are very luxury, very comfortable. They have bed inside. They have showers inside. So despite being in the middle of nowhere in the park, there's no lion that is coming to eat you inside your tent. It's safe. There's a door. It's all inclusive. All the meals are provided, so you don't need to go deeper into your pocket. So once the trip is paid, everything is catered for. Um, so that is the nature of the tented camps that we use. And then you've mentioned something about at night, about safety. So usually because you're in the middle of the park, and there's no fence between you and the animals while within the compound. But while inside your tent at night, it's safe. So they discourage people from leaving the tent at night and walking, because you are in the park and anything can happen. So safety, safety, safety is very important. And all the companies, including Zuri Expeditions and the FGT tours, which will be running trips in Tanzania, safety is very important. And I think you saw last time. That is why they put a whistle inside your tent. In case you have gone to your tent and then you forgot, there's something that you forgot, you want to go back to the main area, which is the reception, then you whistle, and then one of the staff members will come and pick you from your tent. Or if you're waking up in the morning, you want to have breakfast early at 6, and then you want to come to the dining area, because you cannot walk alone, then you pick the whistle, and then you blow the whistle, and then someone will come for you. So that is why safety is one of the most important things that is being factored in here. So clients will enjoy. It's a beautiful accommodation, all inclusive, just a flowing safari with lots of things to see every day.
Absolutely. And I really enjoyed the luxury tinted camps more than I thought. Like the beds were
Mhm.
really comfortable, the blankets were
Yes.
nice and warm. I even remember they had these like warm like pads, these like hot water pads in the bed to like get them
Yes.
all. Ooh, like it felt very
Yes.
fancy, like there's definitely a difference between like the luxury hotels and the luxury tinted camps, but the
Yes.
tinted camps felt very luxurious. But like you said, you have that feeling of being in the park, looking right outside during the daytime, being able to see the zebra, being able to hear the animals at night. I remember my mom saying that she heard some elephants at night
Mhm.
one of the
Mhm.
nights, and she was very excited about it. She even took a video of the noise. And
Yes.
so it's really an immersive experience like I've not had before, but it definitely felt
Yes.
safe. Yeah.
That is true. Yes, yes, you could hear the animals. Even the lions, if the lions roar at night, you could hear the lions way far in the distance. You could hear the hyenas laughing at night. So it's actually being in the wild and all the animals' noises, you know, they're possible to hear them at night.
Yeah, it was such a great way to like break up the trip. And for me,
Mhm,
that's really important, the flow, because oftentimes people will go on a holiday afterward, feel like they need to go on another holiday because they're so exhausted. And
mhm,
I don't want my trips to feel that way. It's important for me to balance it out with a little bit of rest, some activity. And I think that our Plus Size Tanzania tour does that. One of the
mhm,
highlights for me is the sundowner because it's such a beautiful time of day. We had a little bit of wine, we got to see the animals at sunset, and it was just very rich auntie. You know, it was giving rich auntie vibes all the way.
mhm. That's true because if you run a trip from morning to evening for more than 4 days consecutively, people get tired. But we always say that no one gets tired on a safari because there's always a different animals every time you're out there. So what we do is if we have a safari today, morning and afternoon, then the next day, we always schedule for an activity, including the sundowner, which is a relaxing moment. So whereby you just do a short game drive and then you sit somewhere in the middle of the park and maybe wait for the sun to go down as you sip, have a glass of beer or champagne or even a soft drink if you don't take alcohol. So that's meant to relax and listen to the birds in the surrounding environment. And that is one of the inclusions that we have in our trips.
And right now we're talking about, the plus size Tanzania group trip, but you will also offer like solo trips through Zuri Expeditions. And I know that through Fat Girls Traveling Tours, we're doing as little as two people on a trip. So if like a couple wanted to come on our plus size Tanzania tour, they could do that. But I would love to kind of make sure that you let our audience know that like they don't just need to come on our group trip. They can come alone. They can use Zuri to go to Rwanda or Ethiopia or other countries that you service. And if they did want to come on the FGT Tours trip, they could also add on an extension to go to Zanzibar, or they could come early and stay in Arusha a few extra days. So I'd love for you to kind of explain what some of the options might be for people if they don't want to do a group trip or if they want to stay on a little bit longer.
Yes, we do have different options that our clients can choose from. And the FGT tour, for example, we have the group tours. However, we have people said, I don't want to travel as a group. I think it's me and my mom who like to travel. It's me, my brother, and my father, or maybe a family of 4 people. So we have, several options. So you can either join the group tour, uh, or you can do a private tour. And for the private tour, you can choose to do any time of the year. You can do Tanzania, you can do Kenya, you can do Rwanda for the gorillas. So all people are welcomed, and it's them to choose the time frame as to when to travel. And with the consultations, if they need to ask more questions from us, how the trip will be, how many days, what they think is the best time to visit, then we'll be able to share that information.
Fantastic. I love that there's more flexibility with this plus size Tanzania tour. And we're
Mhm.
having multiple departure dates. And so that's something that's brand new for us because
Yes.
this is the first tour that I'm doing where I'm not gonna be on all of the tours. Like that's why I want to introduce my community to Gilbert
Mhm.
and to Zuri Expeditions because as Fat Girls Traveling grows, so will our partnerships. And this is an opportunity for people to experience Tanzania and experience East Africa without me
Mhm.
and to travel with one of our trusted partners, but also just to experience some incredible things that like unfortunately I can't be there for everything, and that's why I'm so lucky that we were able to meet and connect and to build this partnership. And I can't wait to see how it grows, because this really just expands it to a larger audience than just fat girls traveling, which I'm super excited about.
We are very happy as a company, as Zuri Expeditions. We're very happy to work together with FGT Group and to realize it, and also make sure that all the clients, get to enjoy this beautiful country, the beautiful continent of Africa, as we have a lot to offer. And yeah, we hope to make them happy and come back for more and more trips.
I have no doubts that you will, because I had such a great time on my trip with you. And my
Mm.
experience with you is the number one reason why I'm coming back this year, and the number one reason why
Yay!
why I'm excited to partner with you. And before we wrap this
Thank you.
up, yeah, before we wrap up this conversation, first of all, I want to thank anyone who's made it this far into the conversation. You have made it to the almost end of the video. So we are going to welcome you to the end of the video crew. Welcome. And one
Thank
thing
you.
that, yeah, right. And as I promised in the beginning of the conversation, I said that if they waited until the end, they would hear the do rag story. And so that's something that you shared with me during our time in Tanzania. And it's something that moved me. It's something that is very like relevant to Black History Month right now. And between
Mhm.
us, between us and anybody watching it, like I said, it was just me, my mom, and this black woman, this black British woman, Vivian, who I'm friends with now. We were the only three black people on the tour. And like the way that you explained that story, it felt so empowering for us. And so I would love if you could just share it with the audience before we go.
Oh yeah, I remember the story of the Durag. Yes, yes, yeah, I remember. Apart from sharing information about the wildlife, we also share about the history of our country, the continent in general. We also share about our cultures. And yeah, I remember sharing about the history of the Durag, whereby nowadays, if you ask so many people, what is the symbol of the meaning of the Durag? And they will tell you, yes, I see many musicians, athletes, basketball players, putting on them. So most people associate it with like the music or sports industry. But historically, when you follow up history going back to several years, back, you find that many people of, especially of Black ancestry or origin, used to put on them, and they say it was meant to protect, the hair, including, the slaves, and they used to work in the farms, and it was meant to protect their hair when they were working during the day. Some people say it was used to, retain the moisture, in the hair. And every historian gives a different account of the durag. But I came to learn something some years back when I was in Tanzania. I love history so much. And I went to a museum in Zanzibar, and I was trying to follow up on the history of slave trade. And there was slave trade. Africa was being, looted from every corner. Slaves were taken from the Atlantic. That's why we have the transatlantic, slave trade. There was one in Zanzibar. There was one through the Red Sea. And when I saw that document, there was a statement that was written that many people who were taken from West Africa through the transatlantic trade, and the entry point in the US was, Connecticut, and many of them were taken to the States, to work in cotton farm, in tobacco plantations. And they said the reason to why people used to wear the durag was not actually for them to cover the hair because of dust or because of the sunshine, but because when the slave boat was leaving the ocean, if it had 100 people along the way, if one slave dies because of disease or any other cause, the people who are on board, who are the slaves, would have a piece of cloth and tie it on their head as a sign to signify that one slave had died. So it was a communication between the slaves where the slaveholders could not understand. But for them, they thought they were just wrapping their head, the sun or the intensity was hot. But when I read that article, it gave a different account of how people, shared the history, how they crossed from one point to the other one. And that's how I learned about the durag, that it was meant to communicate between the slaves themselves, like we have lost one person, and they put a durag. So when you see 5 people putting on like a durag, which was not a durag that time, like today they have improvised. It used to be a piece of cloth. So when you see 2 people, that means 2 people lost. When you see 3 people putting it on, 3 people lost. 4 people lost. So it was a means of communication. But now with, when they landed in America, working in the farm, there was dust, they covered their hair to maintain them, to retain the moisture. And now later it became like a symbol of resistance. And as of today, when you look at the history of the durag, it's not only the black people who wear them. We have people of different races who wear them. It became something like a fashion. They're being sold. People have different accounts about it. So that is what I learned about the durag, and it was interesting for me to learn about it, and also to share with my guest, and also you being part of the trip, of the people that came for the trip.
Wow, that
Yes,
story is powerful. Thank
yes.
you. Thank you so much.
You're much welcome.
I'm a history person too. I love history and like, oof, that hits, man, especially now, you know? So thank you for sharing. And
Yes, you're much welcome.
of course, and that is it for our conversation. I wanted to first of all shout out these lovely earrings that I got at the Serengeti luxury camp. So there's definitely going to be opportunities for our girlies who want to shop, get some souvenirs. There's going to be
Yes.
some opportunities for that. There's lots of fun and exciting experiences and opportunities to have on our Plus Size Tanzania trip. Please reach out to either of us if you have any questions. And before we close this out, is there anything that you want to leave the audience with, Gilbert? And can you remind them of where they can follow you?
Zuri Expeditions, together with FGT Travel, is welcoming the FGT family and everyone who would like to travel to Tanzania and East Africa in general. And it will be my great pleasure and honor to meet all these people, and also to see you again back in East Africa. And as you have mentioned, we have so many beautiful bracelets and necklaces that people can get while on their tour in Tanzania. We have local wines. So if in case they need to get that, they can still get them on their tour in Tanzania. And then there's something you've mentioned about, or where they can follow me on my social media account, which is Instagram. Username is Zuri Expeditions. Zuri. It is letter, you say Z, we say Z. So it is for you, you will say, you pronounce, you say Zuri Expeditions. For me, I will say for me, I will say Zuri Zuri Expeditions, which is the company Instagram or username. Or they can find me also on my personal Instagram account, which is Expeditions by Gilbert. Very easy. Expeditions by Gilbert.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Gilbert. This was such a fun conversation. I always enjoy chatting with you and just learning more about travel and Swahili and Tanzania. And I'm looking forward to not only us collaborating on this Plus Size Tanzania tour, but I cannot wait to be back there traveling with you and sharing laughs and dance moves and all of that. So, and music.
I like
I remember,
dancing.
yeah, and you shared some really good music with me while we were like traveling, and there is a lots of driving. And so I had
Yes.
different playlists, and you were sharing some different like Afro beats artists with me and stuff like that. It was really cool. So I'm excited for other people to have even a sliver of the experience that I had with you because it was fantastic.
Yeah, thank you so much. And the playlist is always growing bigger and bigger. Maybe you left me with or 5 songs last time. I think now it's more than 40. So when they come to Tanzania, we'll be able to share these songs together. We dance together, and yes, get to enjoy the wildlife together. And it will be my pleasure to partner with FGT Travel and Tours and show people this beautiful country, beautiful continent.
I'm so excited to partner with you and so happy that we got to have this conversation. Thank you so much, Gilbert.
Much appreciated. Thank you so much. Thanks for organizing this. Much appreciated. Goodbye. In Swahili, we
Bye.
say kwaheri.